Okay, yeah. Here are all our characters and figures and stuff. We do touch-ups before we begin production tomorrow morning. And here's some touch-ups on these. The return of the Evergreen people as the Semesters people. They finally got. Also got around to correcting the Doctor gender character. So he's actually the correct one up there. Yeah, so like the story's supposed to take place a month later, and they're suddenly different people. But in the story, they kind of established that, so it actually works. Like he actually addresses that, like to the audience. He said, "Oh, by the way, my action figure was wrong, so now I'm this other action figure." In the story, we didn't change it, so yeah. Here we have the lizards are back. The Lithians from a couple seasons ago. Some Lithians are back. And we give this guy a name, Estrogen, Captain Estrogen. Back of him, can't really see him, but yeah. So yeah, from the 90s. So we have a lot of a lot of characters from the next book that have just been painted from the finale. Yeah, so we want to paint the finale ones and then go back and do the other ones. The other ones are in the story, so yeah, yeah, sort of. Okay, so yeah, we have the characters on the doing some touch-ups on the characters, like look better for the last 2 movie episodes of the season. This season, like last season, were 3 90-minute movies, roughly 90 minutes. I think they were a little under 90 minutes, and this will be 2, and this will be the same thing. This will be we did the Teddy Ruxpin one, and now we're going to do the Picard LaForge one, and that's another 90-minute one. That's one of them. And afterward, we're going to do the Semesters reunion one. But you don't need to know that that's what those are, because all along the Starship locations has always been kind of a shipping story. It is relationshipping of the characters. That's what they call it, shipping, relationshipping slash. But it's PG-13 slash. It's not. Yeah, they don't go there. I know it's kind of weird to do, let's do a slash story without having it be rated R. But no, we could not do that on YouTube with action figures. Even if we wanted to, we couldn't do that. So, so this is what you get: relationshipping of main cast and crew. And it's always kind of been like that. So why not do a homage to the actual thing? Let's do the Picard Report, MC Kim's story series. Oh yeah, with a little bit of Calicat and Mark's cards in there, for good measure. Yeah, they were never released, and a good thing, except for the ones that were released somehow onto the net, and out into the some of the conventions. I wonder how they got released, and in the KS and KS people knew about them, so clearly they were copied over and over again. You know. Some of the early OG people that thought of those were KS people like Bijo Trimble and DC Fontana, actual Star Trek writers who were secretly writing Kirk Spock slash back in the day, and among others. I think Roddenberry might have even taken a crack at one or two of those. He mentioned in the novelization of Star Trek the movie as well. So sure, why not? Yeah, you figure they're probably selling their own stuff. So this is, it's above board. It's all above board. All the situations that happened in it are fictionalized heavily. The events are heavily fictionalized. The characters do not reflect people that actually lived or died or whatever. Nobody died, but people are actually doing anything. So when you watch the stories, you'll get it that it's a spoof, romance of the spoof thing. And not based on anyone. Leo Starro is not really any one of us. He's an amalgam of other people from a camp, but he's an amalgam. So yeah, he's like an amalgamation of different people. So he's not really that person, and the other people on the bridge aren't really the people that they were originally either. So that's fine. In fact, 1 or 2 of them weren't even involved in the whole story at all, and their names are in the credits. I'm not sure why, but yeah, we did leave the actual names out of the credits of the actual people that did not want to have their names in the credits. They are gone. They're not in there, so don't worry about it. Anyway, but the ones that are team, that's fine. Say the team. That's fine. But yeah, yeah, the painting figures there on Sunday. And yeah, so we'll begin production tomorrow on movie 2 and back-to-back movie 3. So yeah. Okay, page 34, 35, 36. Brief scene pickups of Hertzman and Tendi on the bridge. And let's just do them now. And that's what we're going to do. Yes, there hasn't been a lot of behind the scenes on this because we kind of covered it in the behind the scenes making of before the movie got shot. What was going on? Kind of walking on eggshells with the story. It's a PL story, you kind of have to. Yeah, fortunately there are so few fans of Picard LaForge that I don't think they would complain that it's PG-13. Anyway, so we have some scene pickups there, and with that we're nearing the middle of the first of this one, the middle of chapter here, and yeah, so I'm just gonna go there, stop there, and I have really nothing to add to this. We had to go back and reshoot a little bit of footage of Hertzman there. She was blurry. Watch out for that. Putting the story together. Yeah, so that's it. All right, this is a second unit camera. This is making of. I'm going to keep the making of brief because I discussed all of this in the behind the scenes, which is making of during writing the story that inspired the story. So we've already been over that. Doing today's episode, we managed to knock out of the park a lot. We're not going to finish it tonight. That's ridiculous. No, I'm going to stop here. But we are on page 79 of book 1 of book 2 of the series, but the back-to-back 2 stories of shooting the stories. We set it up so it was so filming it was 3 20-minute episodes, made it easier to put it together. So just pretend 2 or 3 20-minute episodes. We're going to get through the episode and go on to the next one. You wouldn't know that in camera. It's going to be a 90-minute movie. But that's what was going on. So it's 4 20-minute episodes, and we got through, first one the first day, second one yesterday. And now we've got through 2 in this one. So there's like part of the last one left. There's sort of page 80 and there's 90. So, yeah. The other scenes are the ending scenes. They're rubbing things together. I don't want to rush that necessarily. Just blaze through it and then have it not make sense later. I'd rather make the ending good. The other, this is Assimilation of Eden, is the episode, and the other one is what is the other one? Something else. Yeah, but Assimilation of Eden is what we're working on here. The other one is the Andover incident. The Andover incident. It's right here. It's the Andover incident. Yeah. So it sets, constructs, production of the filming of the films. And in a wee mite, you're gonna see Mark's cards briefly. And we even had a nod to the Galaxy convention in there. Although, no, we're not going to have a guy dressed like Esto at the convention doing the Esto voice. So that's not going to happen at the convention. That's not going to happen. It'd be funny if somebody dressed like Esto, because that would mean that they're a fan of the PL books. It'd be interesting, because you're like, oh, there are a few of you. Yeah, I went to the Chaos panel. There were a few of them there. Yeah, we're fans. So yeah, little did they realize that one of the writers of one of those stories was actually in the audience, listening to the panel on his stories. Turned around and said, like, oh yeah, by the way, yeah, I happen to know the people that did that. To the effect of them going, prove it, and I totally did. I was like, I know lines from that only the creator of the thing would know. So anyway, so yeah, yeah, and it's you and that there deviant, it's not you that they're gay. It's you that they're deviant. So yeah, that's fine that they're gay, or metro. It's that they're deviant. That's why. In the story, the characters, their juxtaposition. Their ship is more prudish than the planet they go to. The planet is more outgoing. It's sort of like that Justice episode with TNG episode with the horny Greekan people on the planet, Swedish people, and Riker and Worf go down there and everything, and turned out to be crazy, and they want to kill Wesley because he fell in the grass. Anyway, so yeah, so that's pretty much it. We will definitely be able to finish pencil photography on both of these back to back, and then go from there. So yeah, they have similar endings, but a slightly different crew in book 3 and story 3 than in this one. A slightly different crew. The semesters assemble at the end of this. So we get to see the semesters people, but that's the next one. So yeah, we have Captain Estrogen is back. Very progressive for the 90s, that character. He was originally a comic strip character. We did have a comic strip in his voice. His voice is very similar to Azeroth the Techite from Starcrackers, same time period when that was produced. And there's a reason for that, because well, there was going to be a lizard guy on the ship too. And yeah, but we couldn't do a lizard. And we couldn't really do a dog either. So he was going to be the other guy. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Forge and Picard weren't gay, but in the first season, LeVar Burton was told to play the character like he was gay, and then they decided near the end of the season, no, we're not going to do that anymore. To say straight, it would have been very progressive for 1987-88, so they didn't want to do that. So yeah, brought it back. So like, well, in one universe, because there's all multiple universes and parallels in Star Trek. One universe, he and Picard became lovers, and which would be a power play similar to the other guy in the story, the, Woods and Leo Star. And there's a parallel there. Woods and Leo Star would have been kind of the same thing, but well, kind of, in that the power play, the dynamic would be funky. The story that it's loosely based on is also that they're all on board and they all wrote about it flirty, and they realized what they did and what they didn't do in this case, because they didn't want to really do that. So yeah, that's what we got. And yeah, there's the dialogue in the transporter room is they wrote that. So anyway, so yeah, it's totally based on what on something. Yeah. Except actually it went a little further than the real story. It was almost a kiss, but not quite with these two characters. Almost. They cock-blocked it before it happened. It wasn't me that cock-blocked, it was somebody else. Actually, it's worse in the real version, just so you know. It's worse. The guy's wife showed up. She cock-blocked it. That'll do it. Anyway, so yeah, the character that it's based on. So we actually tamed it down a little bit in some ways, sped it up in others. Anyway, so the Borg story, the alien planet, the critters and stuff, that's all the alien plant creatures and the other stuff. That's all from the dollar store. Anyway, so already Halloween stuff out there already. Anyway, so yeah. And the one that was ratting on the other one, that was me ratting on something, but that didn't really happen. They thought I did, but I didn't. It was actually not me. It was that the other people were more clever and more into the ratting. So I wasn't the one that ratted on. No, they were like, yeah, it wasn't me. They just thought it was me, but no, it wasn't. I didn't have to say anything. They were kind of blatant and overt about it, as the other one pointed out in the story. It's like, yeah, you were just blatant. It's like everybody knew. You're not sneaky. Neither was I. I'm not sneaky either. Yeah. Everybody was of age. Nothing untoward. Anyway, so there's the thing. Yeah. So. Okay, making of, I guess. before they're rescued here and immediately back to the ship, we're introduced to a guy called Bertham, and then we're introduced to, well, apparently Alexander Mariner and the other one beamed down, just out of the blue, in the shot to fight them. That would be a really, really bad thing to do if your spaceship is trying to escape from the bad guys who are activating their time-space distortion device. Even in the silly Trek, they're not going to do that. So the main people on the planet are still the away team, and they're reacting to the other stuff. So I'm going to rewrite this a little bit, just real quick, and film it. So changes real brief. I rewrote the final scene where they're on the planet so that they are being led by Harry Kim, because they were being led by Harry Kim. I don't know why I decided the other one should show up at the last second and help them. The same 4 people, led by Harry Kim. He rescues them from the planet, and they leave a probe as they leave so they can watch the action happen. Cool. So let's film this. Yeah. So we have some more making of material here. Page 83, 84, and 85. I've had some characters that shouldn't have been there if the transporter scene happened immediately after that last scene. So they're not there. But the ones that are transported are in their place. That's what this is about. You don't need to know the details, but yeah, Foster and Hollybrook weren't in those scenes at all. They shouldn't have been there. Hertzman should not be there. She's in the transporter room, apparently. And Tendi is not there because she would be in sickbay. So basically all the Tendi scenes are Gwen or Harry Kim, who have been transported immediately to the bridge. And the others have been transported to the safety. Also, they don't bring up the fact that one of the crewmen died on the planet, Deborah. I threw that in there, saying like, oh yeah, did Deborah come back? And they're all, no. So yeah, that needs to be addressed, because one of them is just gone. Yeah, so in the story. So that's kind of the behind the scenes of that. Let's film the scene. Yeah. So making of, what's going on is she conjures powers, and then they don't show it. So what I did is I took the second half of the meeting scene, which is the closing part, and cut it in half. And I said, okay, what would happen if, because the meeting, there's this scene where she's with Cal in the room, doesn't match with the meeting. But what if Cal cued himself into the meeting and made everybody go away but her and talk to her? And now thus we can use her powers and have her say, well, I'm going to conjure Leo Starro to reappear. And then everyone else reappears, but that was probably Cal. So so yeah, that'll convey, okay, she has like Cillian Q powers, which is funny. So that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. Assimilation of Eden, that's a wrap. Overdid it with the last yesterday. Voice is kind of froggy. It's a good thing we got this finished. I gotta wait a couple days before I do some more of this for the final chapter, the finale. There are Assimilation of Eden is 2 45-minute stories stuck together, and the next one is the same thing. And there's altogether, when you put it all together, it's 6 episodes of Starship Legacy, Season 2. Legacy Season 2, because the other ones went so well that they had to do Season 2. It has more views on that, on Season 1 than we got on all the other Chimera episodes. They really love the darker tone, the goofy stuff, it's more like shipping kind of angle. They like that, so people are flocking in to check it out. But yeah, it's not gonna get so edgy that it's gross, but it's gonna be suggestive because they like that. Yeah, it isn't really though. It's not bad. There's not a lot of making of on here because they kind of went over the other stuff. Just to clarify for pseudo legal reasons, nobody contributed directly from the C3 camp to this story. It was just inspired by conversations, dialogue, and whatnot. and goofy things at the thing. It was not in any way a expose. It wasn't any kind of thing like that. It was really characters understood and then misunderstood and laughing about it later. So there's yeah, if anything, just inspired by stuff. There wasn't any goofy, pervy, kissy things. That did not happen. It was something more mild than that. But still, inappropriate for that venue. Wasn't me. Yeah, so I wouldn't have done that. No. I have the Q powers. But yeah, so I decided to go there and say, okay, what is the most untoward, bizarre, lacking boundaries story that I can think of where I can make it PG-13 and do a story, and I thought, oh yeah, the PL, Picard LaForge. I'll do that. I'll do a PL story where it's actually not gross, where they just imply it's gross. Can I get away with that? And Mark Picard said, well, maybe you could get away with that. I don't know. But Prude Tube will get in there. He said you can drop at least one F-bomb, but no, I didn't. But yeah, the idea that they're in some sort of parallel during the story, where they're in a darker universe, where it is like Mirror Universe, and it's horny, because Mirror Universe was like that. Also, the gag in there is that the Picard series is actually Picard LaForge. And I've actually been doing that for like 3 years. So that. And that it's without LaForge, because they divorced. And he married Sam Clerk instead. But the Picard series is Picard LaForge. Which is why it's weird and doesn't really match up with Next Generation. Not even Season 3. It's because they're in Silly Track. They're in Starship locations. They're messing around in Starship locations. Now, they should just hire us, and then that'll be good. And we'll make it more like Next Generation. So yeah, there was no nobody was having an affair. That's ridiculous. No. The people involved in the actual story were caught immediately. So it wasn't like, oh well, yeah. It's just like, yeah, it didn't really end up being anything. So yeah, but in the storybook version, they stretched it out and made it this elaborate thing where the Borg made them horny, and they were on the planet, and they're the chocolates and all that. And it's like, no, I didn't. Of course, that didn't happen. Yeah, and I reworked that ending scene where the Godfather character shows up and everything. I reworked that so that scene made sense. Yeah, and there were some rewrites with the bridge scene, and then I wanted certain things to happen with the crew, with the characters. I didn't want to do that, and so I did. Yeah, so yeah, more a little behind the scenes stuff with the behind the scenes stuff. So yeah, I did some of that other stuff before, but I think it might be fun to have kind of explain it a little better with some of that. So there was a dude older than me on the set story, on the camp. Dude older than me, knows better, yeah, a boomer basically, who was he was like being a little too handsy. The dude was a little handsy. They got caught and kept doing it. They got caught again, and finally they had a talk with him. He said not to do that. That's all it was. The boomer guy. I'm a Next Generation guy, so I wasn't. That's all it was. It wasn't. Yeah, and then they made this elaborate story. And also we have a the Captain Estrogen thing is from the well, if we already talked about PL stuff. I think we already mentioned that was fake Picard LaForge shipping fiction, of which the Starship Locations is a shipping story from the very beginning. The very first one, is Q and Picard / basically. And all the other ones have been kind of like that. And, Star Trek like / and they do things, they encounter things. That would be, if you were hyper-conservative, very, very, you'd be very uncomfortable watching that. You'd be like, oh, oh my goodness, there's LGBTQ people in it, represented. Like, of course there are. It's the future, and that's what they would do. There's women taking command of the ship. That's fine, that's what they do. And in this one, we have a lizard character who shows up, Captain Estrogen, from the 90s. he just called himself that because his name is Ekvercheeks. So he's like, it's easier to say estrogen. So, and he wasn't necessarily a transgendered character. He just wanted to choose that name because he thought it sounded similar. But in this story, they imply that he's trans, which is cool for him. It's awesome. But yes, we have there was none of that going on at the camp. Yeah, so wrapped up filming on this one, and the big lizard guy from Lithia, an homage to James Blish from the Star Trek books, and back in the day. And James Blish wrote Case of Conscience, which was a 50s sci-fi book about Father Rio Sanchez, who goes to Ekverchees' planet Lithia. There's lithium there, which is really odd, and blows up the thing. Now there's a connection with Star Trek there too, Lithia, because if you look at he exercises the planet, and he thinks the planet blew up because he exercised it, but it probably just blew up because their reactor was crappy. A common 60s trope. They'll have like nuclear annihilation going on. And this story follows that story. If you think about how it's structured, the bad guys activate a device that essentially blows up their planet at the end. So it's very similar. Or it transmutates it and blows it up. So it does the whole the thing with the transmutations and all that, and it throws in the loom and everything. It's a good thing Prodigy Season 2 introduced the loom, which are the time-eating creatures, similar to Langoliers in Cthulhu things. So we could use them in the story. And there was this scene that we did it in post where they showed the creature fighting the kitten, the space Unikitty. I'll just film that on the background of the set. And it doesn't matter if it looks like the background of the set. It's fine. It's a comedy, so sure. We've been doing a space sitcom for years. Yeah, you're not supposed to take it seriously, and it's the characters are LGBTQ and they're acting weird. It's that they're weird, and some of them happen to be LGBTQ. That's what it is. So they're weird, but they're supposed to be. They're Sicilians, Trekkies. At the end, we kind of reveal the powers of the younger generation. They have Sicilian powers. In the story, they're actually ramped up in age a little bit to be around 25, 26. When in real life, they're 20, 21. Oh, the Bridge Bunny characters on the ship. They know about the fan films and stuff. They haven't actually watched them. They know that some of the fan film stuff that they mention to me ends up in my fan films. I don't know how well they will receive this one because it's a little close to what actually, but no, they probably will go well, it's not that close, so it isn't really. It's not really what happened, obviously. It's funnier and it's like the guy that was Hansi ended up. More of his stuff is inspired in the story, so it's like, well, he's writing about himself. Yeah, he's not being insulted. He's writing about himself. The character in the story is literally self-effacing and is like, oh man, this was really dumb what I did. I'm gonna make fun of that in the story. So it's like, oh, all right. So if he's in on it, then if they're all in on it, then cool, go for it. And they're a little too. That's funny too, if they were encouraging it. Everybody was discouraged in the final day. Don't do that. By the actual, it wasn't the Q Godfather guy showing up that did it. It was actually the mother of the main character, the story. She shows up and she tells them to knock it off, basically, in the story. The both of them to knock it off, which is funny. That's actually really what happened. That's actually more pointed, but we spread it out in the story. Okay, it's Mariner representing the mother, and it's like this other guy doing the thing, and Tendy's kind of in there, kind of left her behind, but she's on the bridge, and we did this other thing, and it works. surprisingly well. It is a Picard LaForge. If you're familiar with that series, it is also a love letter to that series. And if we, they could still be out there, the guy said. We unexpectedly killed the character of Deborah Dolmer from last episode, who was introduced, I think, just last episode. Yeah, she was in like, I'm like, oh, well, she gets blasted. She's gone. That's a reference not to an actual event, but to a character who, during the production, didn't want to do the production anymore. But another one came back. She's like, I want to do the production again. So, yeah, so we brought one of them back. Got rid of it. We're kind of spoofing the whole Dukes of Hazzard guys got replaced. Bo and Luke got replaced with Coy and Vance, and then replaced in a season. Kind of doing that kind of as a spoof, kind of in the background, kind of saying like, oh, this girl was going to be the replacement for Tam Locarno. It's going to be Deborah Dolmer, and she's going to do something else. And they said, nope, didn't work out. So we just got her in this one episode for a few seconds, and like 5 minutes of dialogue, 6 minutes of dialogue, and then she's gone. Didn't really need to do that, but that'd be fine. Yeah. And they don't seem terribly shaken up by it, because she wasn't really around much. Yeah. That's kind of spoofing the Seska thing, too, with the Enterprise. Of which they will find a resolution at the end of the next story. Yeah. They had to switch some characters around, too. The characters of Hertzman and Woods in the story were the wrong figures in the story in the last episode. We introduced them and didn't realize the wrong figures. So switched Foster with Hertzman. We switched Foster with Woods. Yeah, that's what happened. Foster and Woods were wrong because of the different ones that we had to paint. So we just said, oh, we'll just reintroduce her as Foster. I don't think anybody's going to notice. They kind of look similar enough that it's like, no, okay. Yeah, Foster should be, the one. The other one should be the other one. Yeah. But you won't notice when you're watching it. When you see this making of thing. Added on to behind the scenes, I guess. Or, yeah, kind of. It's making, there's not a lot of making of, because it was just like, okay, we're going to do this story about this non-incident that happened. Couple of non-incidents that happened. And make a story out of it. And there was enough material to do 2 90-minute movies, so there's another one coming up. Wrote that script. That one is, though, the next one will be more of a love letter to the fictional adventures and semesters. And to realize that, oh, okay, nobody's going to know what Picard and LaForge is. There's got to be something in here for those that have not read those. They're very obscure KS books, Next Generation period. And we got to have something that introduces what that is. It was more of a musical thing back in the day. It was a Cat musical thing. And we didn't want to make this a musical. That wasn't the intent. We wanted to introduce one of the characters in a way that harkened back to that and would cause fans of that to laugh and fans of the other ones, the Cat parodies, to laugh. And so the synergy came when we were like, okay, Captain Estrogen's down on the planet. And we're all like, oh, we behind the scenes, singing the Suddenly Esto song. Suddenly Seymour parody. And going like, oh, that's how he should be introduced. Esto should just be belting out Suddenly Esto. Standing behind you, and he's just standing on the bridge singing to the crew as they walk up to him. Standing in a stage on the planet, the castle. The lair. Suddenly Esto is standing behind you. Don't need a Benoit. In half you will bend. It's just kind of gross. Lyrics are kind of naughty, but they're naughty. They're not. Yeah, they're like childishly naughty, silly. Suddenly Esto is here to provide you with sweet-tasting lemon, Esto Chimera. And yeah, you can look that up on the internet. I'm not going to need to explain. I don't need to explain that. But the Japanese also have something called the creamy lemon and that thing. And you can assume that that's just, oh, they like lemon and cream and stuff. No, there's something else going on there that if you know what that is, it's about a bad guy who does some accosting. And there's an overarching theme with the Picard LaForge stories when we put them together in the 90s. We didn't realize that actually they were rather creepy and weird. Um, and yeah, and they go along with that story. It works perfectly well. It's like you would expect those characters from that universe to totally act weird and sexually weird, pervy. Yeah. But not too much because it's PG-13. Not for kids. Yeah. This season is not for. None of them are for kids. So, you know, everybody was on board. So yeah, they're skirting around it again. But the idea is that they're not. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Anyway, so that's all for today. It's Friday. And next week, Saturday and Sunday, not this weekend. Next weekend is the Galaxy Con. See Cal Cat in the chat. Shoot the shit. Well, so I'll see you later. But yeah, yeah. So San Jose, and yeah, meet up with the Star Trek people. But Terry Metalis will not be there. He chickened out. Psst. He doesn't want to actually be there if I'm there, because then the universe would explode. Time warp. Silly. Sure. But Will Wheaton, as a traveler, he's not afraid to be there, so he's going to be there. So, oh, it's another one of those cute guys. But yeah, they were not involved. The Star Trek people were not involved in this episode at all. Any credits and bylines or bylines in the story. There wasn't really enough of the actual adult people in the story to put their names in the credits. And yeah, so they Alan Smithied them out of the credits. They're not the credits. So, Alan Smithy. But yeah, that's when the director didn't want to put his name up. And it's just as well, because they would ask so many questions. They'd be like, why? What's going on? People didn't do this or that or other things. But they were the inspiration for Tam and Kestra. Two of them were. So they kind of had to introduce the actual Cillians that were them into the story. They could see who they are. Yeah. The Cillian versions, of course. Cal Hazel instead of Cal Cat. The Abbeys. And also, one of them was speculating with the story or thing. Oh yeah, there's a third Abby. Would she ever be included in it? No. The third Abby is not included. No, she's not in there. Because that's just weird. No, that would be wrong. Oh, and would they include the other two older adult coach guys that got the guy? No, they don't want to be in Silly Track. They're not into Silly Track. You're right about it. Change the names around so they can't tell who they are. Oh, and the character of Leo Starro was originally the guy's name, Leo Starro, and the story is called Lion Star. It's not his real name, of course. And we couldn't use Leo Starro anymore because the Starro is apparently something from DC. But also because there was another thing with a Leo Starro. It's confusing. So we didn't. Lion Star kind of sounds like it, but it's more anglicized. It kind of sounds like it. But it's not. Ooh, but yeah, so yeah, that's all there is. I thinking of on this one. It's fun, and it's a good story. It's a fun, good story for the dailies. It works as a story. Except for some characters that got switched around at the end because there was just no time to explore them. They were put in the wrong place. They should have beamed the crew up immediately. That would have made more sense. Would have been more like current Star Trek. Leaving them out on the planet and having them slowly beam up. No, they just beam up because it's the end of the scene. And the bad guys destroy themselves, as Pine Hill would destroy themselves. Yeah, and I kept thinking of the ending of the other book, like what was going on. When I was writing this one, I got to the end of the other book, and I was like, oh, this one doesn't have that ending. It's a different one. It's got to be the other one. Yeah, I was thinking of the never-ending story, song jokes and stuff. That was later. That's in the other one. Second story doesn't have as much There's not as much on the bridge. There were 16 bridge scenes in this one. I think there's 9 in that one, short ones. That's a third. Mainly they're on the planet. Finally go back to Far Out. But a part of Far Out that is not COL and TMS and Marshall Sportiest. It's a part of the planet that is semesters and fictional adventures, people. We get to see that. Also, we kind of introduced Crenshaw early and shouldn't have. And we had to take that out. We introduced a character called Bertham Fennell early, and he shouldn't be in this story or in the other one. And he was only briefly mentioned on the planet, and that didn't make sense. So I cut it out. I just gave it to Harry Kim because it didn't make any sense anyway. Harry Kim gets to say it. Then later on he appears, and Harry Kim gets to say it. Introducing. So if you're doing this fan film story and you introduce a hero at the 11th hour, that's what they call it, at the 11th hour, and like literally pages away from the end of the story, just to affect the story like a MacGuffin, they don't necessarily need to be in your story. That's not necessary to put the MacGuffin in the story. It's not necessary. He didn't need to be in there. The other guy was fine. And also the 3 lines of Tendi on the bridge. She didn't need to be on the bridge because the other girl's there. So have Woods say the lines. Have Hertzman say the lines. Actually Hertzman wasn't there in that bridge scene. I had to cross that out. No, she's not there. She's a transporter. But Leo Starro in driving the ship, that was kind of funny. But that's I left that because that was funny. Okay, he's not driving the ship. Yeah. So he's not completely irredeemable. He's like a lovable scamp. They used to call them in the 100 years ago. Lovable scamp, sort of little tramp kind of thing. Before tramp meant whore. little scamp. He's like offish, and he has puppy dog eyes, and he tries to like convince you that he's not kind of pervy and horny, but he totally is. So that's different from the other character that he's very loosely based on. It's not me. It's not at all. No. I was flirty, but I wasn't like that. I know boundaries and all that stuff. Yeah. I would be the Godfather character in the story. I'd be the one that pops in and goes like, "Oh, Q, don't do that. Give your free will." That would be my character. And they reference that in the story because he turns around and he goes, "I'm actually the Perkins character." Oh. And then I added that scene that needed to be in the story because Hollybrook goes, I would all the audience, as I winked to the audience, always assumed that the Hollybrook character was the inspiration for the semesters, the people. He was the Mary Sue of Calicat. No, it was Chris Salmon. It was never me. No, but in semesters, Perkins was totally me. But yeah, so that makes sense. And has he been Locarno in Paris the whole time? Ooh, and have they switched over to the other ones the whole time? Has the other Lily Crenshaw been the Dax the whole time? Yeah, pretty much. That's who played that Dax Locarno, Ezra Locarno in the series. So yeah, that's who that was. and that's just So we have characters and names in the credits that are actually the fictional characters are playing, which is kind of funny. Ariana Foster and Jane Piedmont, or the voice and the character at the same time. What? How does that even work? Well, I guess it does because you have Silly Kelly and Cal Cat, and that's the same person. Cowpoke is the same person. They're all kind of the same person. Because there's not really a cast. It's funny when they had that writer's strike for 8 months, and they were wondering how the fan films could continue over here. Writer's strike going on. They did slow down a little bit, and we did the Destiny thing during the strike and all that. But yeah, we're WGA, and we weren't SAG-AFTRA, so we just did our own thing. Yeah, we weren't at the strike because we were not Hollywood. This is not Hollywood. This is, so we were fine, independent. There was some Hollywood people though in the cast, and they were like, "Oh, I can't be in the church play because I was worried about being in." Some of them were worried about being in the church play because they were SAG-AFTRA. They did lend their voice or their talents in the background. They said, "No, it's if you're volunteering to be in a church play." I think they'll waive that. That's not crossing the picket line or something. That's doing your own volunteer thing. Same as fan films over here. That's like not going to affect anything during a strike. You're walking over the fence. You're just doing a volunteer thing. Yeah. Anyway, that was weird to rant about that. But yeah. Those are yeah. The Unikitty for sure. Come up with an episode with the Unikitty. That's actually a plush toy from a Lucky store back in the day. Anyways, yeah, that's all we got. Until next time.